Thomas, I think fascinating because it's not just Canada, right? Some other countries are also reviewing their contracts to buy these very expensive fighter jets from the U.S. over trade concerns. What do we know so far about Canada?
Yeah, it's fascinating and an unprecedented situation. The US and Canada are the only countries in the world to share a binational military command in NORAD, which defends the continent's airspace. So for them to review this contract after it's all signed is really quite stunning. And it was one of the first actions that Mark Carney took after taking office on Friday, within hours.
Shift in U.S. security policy not only has allies in Europe scrambling to increase their defense spending, it also raises uncomfortable questions about their dependency on American weapons already in their arsenal. One example is the F-35 fighter jet made by American aerospace giant Lockheed Martin. Several prominent voices linked to the defense establishment in Europe have suggested the U.S. has built so-called kill switches into the aircraft, which would allow Washington to remotely deactivate or limit the combat functions of the F-35s.
But another jet is being talked about a lot, which is the Saab Gripen. That was the runner-up in the long procurement process to get these F-35s lined up. And they'd committed to make more in Canada, which is seen as an increasingly important thing here politically, especially given the aggressive rhetoric coming out of the White House. There's been a real reevaluation of the relationship here.
Thomas, I wonder if Canada hasn't already boosted its defense spending quite a bit, because at least by my math, 88 F-35 jets would more than double the total amount of fighter jets in Canada's military fleet currently.
Canada just walked away from a $19 billion deal with the U.S., leaving Washington completely blindsided. Prime Minister Mark Carney's stunning cancellation of the F-35 fighter jet program signals a dramatic shift in Canada's foreign policy. Behind closed doors, furious White House officials are threatening crippling auto tariffs that would devastate Canada's economy. But Carney isn't backing down. What does this unprecedented move mean for the future of U.S.-Canada relations? We're exposing the shocking European defense pact that's already being negotiated and why this decision will permanently alter the North American power balance. The fallout is just beginning. The $19 billion betrayal inside Canada's shocking F-35 cancellation. What just happened has left defense contractors stunned and American officials absolutely fuming. After decades of careful planning and billions in preparations, Canada's Mark Carney has delivered a political slap in the face that Washington never saw coming. The massive F-35 deal, 88 advanced fighter jets worth $19 billion with deliveries set for 2026, has been completely scrapped by Prime Minister Carney's shocking announcement. American defense officials who thought this deal was locked and loaded have been blindsided by this calculated chess move designed to distance Canada from America's sphere of influence. The timing is deliberate, coming amid escalating tensions with the Trump administration that have been brewing for months. The White House reaction has been nothing short of furious. Behind closed doors, American officials have reportedly threatened economic consequences that could cripple Canadian manufacturing if Carney doesn't reverse course. These threats have only strengthened Canadian resolve to break free from American defense dominance. Even more alarming for Pentagon officials, Portugal withdrew from the F-35 program immediately after Canada's announcement, revealing a coordinated international move against American defense supremacy that has military planners panicking. What the American media won't tell you is the real motivation. Canada's domestic defense industry generates $10 billion annually and supports over 64,000 jobs. Carney is protecting Canadian workers while building domestic capability. The Saab Gripen alternative tells the whole story. These fighter jets could actually be built in Canada, transforming the country from a buyer of American military equipment to a producer of its own defense capabilities and revolutionizing Canada's military independence. Carney's strategic vision goes beyond canceling a jet order. He's redirecting billions toward building a Canadian-European defense partnership that completely sidelines American influence. This cancellation marks the beginning of Canada's declaration of defense independence. Quick break. If you're enjoying this video, we'd love it if you could like and subscribe. It's surprising how over 98% of our viewers watch without subscribing. Subscribing is totally free, and it really helps us keep making the content you love. So go ahead and tap that button. It just takes a second. Thanks for your support, and now let's jump back in. Economic warfare. How America's tariff attack backfired catastrophically. Canada's declaration of defense independence didn't go unanswered. The White House response was swift, aggressive, and catastrophically miscalculated. In February 2025, America launched an economic assault with punishing 25% tariffs on virtually all Canadian imports, a blatant attempt to force Canada back into American defense dependency. The economic chess match was just beginning. By March 11th, the White House doubled down, cranking tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum to a staggering 50%. This escalation transformed what began as policy pressure into full-blown economic warfare. What American officials never anticipated was Canada's devastating counterpunch. Prime Minister Mark Carney unleashed an unprecedented $21 billion retaliation package targeting America's most vulnerable industries. "We will never, ever bow down to a bully," Carney declared in a fiery national address. "Canadians will always stick together." The most shocking response came from Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who slapped a 25% tariff on electricity exports to the United States. The impact was immediate and brutal. Energy costs skyrocketed across New York, Michigan, and Minnesota, literally turning off the lights in states dependent on Canadian power. Canada's retaliation wasn't just impulsive anger, it was surgical warfare targeting America's political pressure points. The 25% tariff on Kentucky bourbon was a precision strike at Senate leadership's home state. Even more humiliating for Washington was their transparent justification. The White House claimed the tariffs were partly about fighting the fentanyl crisis, despite their own DEA report not listing Canada as a significant source. While the economic battle raged, Canada was quietly executing a permanent strategic pivot. The $6 billion purchase of an Australian early warning radar system signaled Canada was systematically cutting its defense dependency on America. The true bombshell was happening behind closed doors in Brussels. Canada secured an invitation to join the European Union's PESCO military project, fundamentally realigning its security architecture away from the United States toward Europe. Make no mistake, what we're witnessing is a declaration of Canadian independence. Mark Carney's dramatic pivot toward Europe represents the most fundamental shift in Canada's defense strategy in generations. European leaders are enthusiastically embracing this new alliance through PESCO, the EU's military cooperation framework that deliberately excludes America. Defense expert David Jordan highlighted how Trump's administration became a turning point for Europe, pushing these nations to build something America can't control. The consequences are staggering. This isn't temporary. Carney has altered the North American power balance in ways Washington never anticipated. America's influence over its northern neighbor is evaporating. The question now haunting the White House isn't if Canada will return, but whether they can prevent losing their closest ally forever. How will this reshape security across the continent for decades to come?